Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Attack the Baseline, a WNBA podcast where every episode we attack our baseline knowledge of the WNBA. We're your hosts, John and Kristen Barber, and this week we've got Washington Mystics Watch. An exciting, thrilling time following our LA Sparks watch from last week, another bad team in the WNBA. But before we get into that, we've got some transaction reactions to the WNBA Trade Deadline. We have a handful of new unrivaled players, and we also have a look around the league and some exciting and interesting developments surrounding the Minnesota Lynx and the Las Vegas Aces. So, before we get into that, Kristen, how are we on this lovely Sunday afternoon?
We're good. I'm sleepy.
Yeah, sleepy.
Yeah. I'm gonna get ready for bed after this.
It is 7:22 p.m.
Yeah. We've been moving. We've been busy.
We had a pool party on Saturday.
Yeah, that drains you.
It does, all that sun.
Yeah, but that was fun. Fun weekend. But yeah, in terms of where watching less exciting teams this half of the season, I think that just comes with the fans we know are becoming fans of better teams.
Yep.
And we, front-loaded that.
Absolutely.
So now here we are.
Yep.
Talking about these teams that are kind of left over at this point.
Another team that goes into the week with only 6 wins.
Oh, well.
Happens. Somebody has to be on the bottom. And as we said in LA discussion last week, that can be a good thing considering next year's draft. But, again, we'll get into all of that. If you're new here and you've never listened to the show, welcome. We love to have you. Happy to have you. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can do so at our email, attackthebaseline@gmail.com, or follow us on our Twitter at @ATBpod_. We're continuing to grow on that platform, and we're having a fun time live tweeting some of the games and reacting to some of the major moves and just retweeting some of the general really good media surrounding the WNBA. I love the various accounts and their content. So yeah,
and the players are hilarious.
They all have such incredible personalities. So it's a fun time over there on our Twitter. So ATBpod_. But now that business is out of the way, first things first, on Tuesday, we had our WNBA Trade Deadline. And as an enjoyer of the NBA, I was revved up. I was like, it's going to be a big day. We're going to have an emergency pod. There's going to be different trades to talk about. And then I learned, not really as big of an event in the WNBA.
No, seemingly nobody. Not really. Most teams did nothing. It was mostly signings of players that had been abroad.
Right. Which, of course, can happen after the trade deadline. So, not particularly exciting.
Yeah, I think it's just, it hasn't really been a big deadline in the past. Hasn't been a big thing.
No, the big trade this year was the Marina Mabrey trade, which we talked about.
Yeah.
And we've seen the result of that being mostly a positive for the Sun so far. But yeah, just to go through the list in case you missed it, because it is hard to sometimes get some of these trades. There was a notable trade between the Minnesota Lynx and the Washington Mystics. The Lynx sent Olivia Epopa and Sika Kone to the Mystics in exchange for Dee Richards, in exchange for Misha Hines-Allen, a player who's averaged around 18 or so minutes for Washington, played and produced 7.5 points, handful of rebounds, another big for this Minnesota team that is generally bigger than the rest of the league, or most of the league. So it's kind of a weird acquisition, but it was probably a net positive part that was sold off by the Mystics. Because, newsflash, the Mystics also don't want to win games. So they couldn't sell off anybody better, but they sold off a positive piece to a team that is attempting to, win a championship. So, Olivia Epopa immediately released by the Mystics, which is sad. And then the Mystics also release Dee Richards in that position as well. So Sika Kone stays in Washington, and we didn't really see her play this week.
No, I don't think she did at all.
And it may be, trade things and movement, but she didn't make our list.
No.
And then the other trade we had was an exchange between the Phoenix Mercury and also the Washington Mystics. The Mercury sending Shug Sutton and a third for the draft rights to Clara Lundquist, who is a player that neither Kristen or I are familiar with. International player, someone that the Mercury may see as a good player to have down the road, someone that they could bring over eventually from the international game. Seems to have decent stats, high scorer, high rebounder, has won some awards, guard of the year. Interesting stuff.
Yeah, she's from Sweden, but I think she's already set to play in Spain next year.
Okay, so she's gonna be in Spain. She signed her Spain contract.
Yeah, I think so.
So in order to get her to come over, they would need to buy out that contract, or the Spanish team would need to buy out the contract and then get her here. Okay. So it's probably not going to be. She's like a long-term piece, if anything. But again, you're trading a third, and you want to move. You want to move Shug because you want to make space so that you can add Monique Billings, who they signed after she was dropped by the Dallas Wings. We mentioned that last week. Helped them win a game. She had 13 and 8 in 15 minutes of play in her first game with Mercury, and that's positive. I know just today they released her because she was on a 7-day, but they signed her through the rest of the year. So Monique Billings, formerly of Dallas, is now with the Phoenix Mercury. And then we also had another exciting...
Wait, I have a question about this.
Yes.
Something. I don't know if you know. So they have the rights to Clara Lundquist.
Yes.
So in my mind, that's, a good thing, thinking ahead, because these, this draft and next draft, the teams will be shifting so much.
Correct.
So...
Does that count as a keeper? Somebody you have to keep?
Right.
I believe so.
Oh, okay.
I believe it would be... maybe not, because it's international rights. It's tough because it's not like a rostered player.
Right. It's kind of like getting around, this is somebody else that I'll be able to have.
It could be. Listener, if you are a listener that knows the international rules and rights a little better and what it would do for the expansion draft, please let us know. We would love to get a response to this so we can talk about it in a little more detail maybe next week. But I would assume that they have to protect her. My gut says that, but at that point, why are you even doing it?
Right, why would they do it then?
You do it maybe to not have to worry about the money for Shug so that you can sign Monique. I don't know.
Okay.
They had to give something back.
Yeah.
They don't have to match salary in the WNBA like they do in the NBA. It's kind of confusing.
Are you sure?
I am fairly certain.
Okay.
It's a different animal.
Uh-huh.
But anyway.
Okay.
A couple other things going around the league. An exciting signing for Seattle, a player we were just talking about a few weeks ago with the Paris Olympics, Gabby Williams.
Yes.
She's back. She played for the Storm in the past.
Yeah. And
she's returned to help the Storm make a playoff push. Exciting player for them.
Very exciting. She hasn't played yet, right?
No, I think her first game is tomorrow, the 26th of August, I believe. Okay,
so I'm excited to see that. I think she'll fit in well with the Storm.
And give them a little extra shooting and something that they certainly could use. So we'll see what kind of a player she is and what kind of volume Noelle has her out on the court. She might be a smaller role player role, I would assume, because she hasn't played in the W for a while now. But could be cool. And then really everything else was kind of small signings for the Sparks. They extended Azure. They extended Stephanie Talbot, which, and then the Mercury, they actually, through the rest of the year, this is the Sparks, back to the Sparks. Crystal Dangerfield got signed through the rest of the way. And then, the Mercury giving a 7-day to Celeste Taylor, another 7-day, the player that they recently picked up after she was released earlier last week. Odyssey Sims, who we talked about on the Sparks last week, she was under a 7-day. She got another one, and it's just kind of been, these players that are on short-term contracts, they've been released and then signed through the rest of the year. Jalen Sherrod, another one from the Liberty. Just small moves, small potatoes. And these teams that, like, unconsequential moves for the Sparks.
Yeah, they just need to have players at this point, the Sparks. So
Yeah. I know there's been a little chatter about maybe what are the Aces going to do with that last spot. There's been a discussion of maybe, like, Miesemann comes over from Belgium to help them out a little bit on the offensive end. I don't know. They haven't done anything. So there's still an opening, but not a very exciting trade deadline. But at least there was a trade.
Yeah, there was something, and especially around the Mystics, who we were rooting for this week. So that was exciting, at least.
That is true. It's like, oh, Mystics news.
Yeah.
How can we tank more? Anyway,
Well,
we'll get into that in more detail, but let's move on to Unrivaled. We have 2 new players in the Unrivaled 3-on-3 league. Kristen, who do we got?
we have Satu Sabali and Alicia Gray.
Aura.
So those are good. Definitely good additions.
I love to see both of them there. Both very good players in this league. Not a surprise, not a talent drop off. They add to, and they make up to 15 players in the league. So we're halfway through the 30-player league. We're going to see more clues to come on the Unrivaled League. So make sure you keep checking in on that with their Twitter account. They're very very entertaining, and they've got some good clues and hints. All right, now it's time to go around the league before we get into the Washington Mystics. I would like to focus on the Las Vegas Aces and their home and home against the Minnesota Lynx. Minnesota Lynx winning both games.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. Because right now, the Lynx are in 3rd place in the standings.
Guaranteed a playoff spot.
Yeah.
They've locked their playoff spot.
And the Aces are 5th. So, like, the Aces are not about to drop out of the playoffs.
No.
So, really, it's fine.
Right.
But they can't be... But, like, it's possible that they see the Lynx in a playoff game, in the final game. They need to be preparing for the finals more. If they want to have success. Yeah, the Aces.
Well, the way that it's interesting now is that the Aces are 3.5 games behind Minnesota. I really don't see them necessarily catching Minnesota. No. I don't see them overcoming 3 games in 10. Like, there are only 10 games left of the regular season. So I think the Aces are going to prepare for a matchup against Seattle in the 4-5 game.
Yeah.
Which would mean that the Aces would draw the Liberty in the semifinal round, which would mean that we will not be looking at a replay of last year's final. It would come.
That's good.
It would come the round before, which I think is fun. Liberty versus Aces up front, and then you have the other side of the bracket being like a potential Minnesota Sun matchup, which we've talked about is probably a huge advantage for the Lynx.
Oh, huge.
But,
What about Marina?
The Marina factor, you deny it, but I think it's likely that the Aces are shaping up to play the Liberty in the second round, and anything could go there. It's been a bit of a disappointing year for the Aces, I would say. But, they have the Chelsea Gray...
Well, that's what you could say at the beginning. Oh, Chelsea Gray's not here. That's why we are struggling. Well, Chelsea Gray's been back for what? At least 15 games.
Right. And they're only, 6-4 in their last 10.
Yeah.
So they're not blowing the doors off. Today, they just won a close game on a game-winning buzzer beater by A'ja Wilson, the GOAT.
That was incredible.
If you didn't go check it, Kenny Carter, game-tying 3, huge, gutsy shot.
With like 4 seconds left.
And then a beautiful inbound from Chelsea Gray to A'ja Wilson to get an easy enough layup. and make the winning shot.
And that's why I don't want to say anything bad about Chelsea Gray.
No.
Because of that inbound.
No, I don't think it's
You
her
can't.
fault.
No, I don't think
There's
it's
a certain
her
level
fault.
of fatigue when you're the big dog
Yeah.
for 2 years.
Right. I mean, I don't know. I feel like when I watch, I'm like, oh, Chelsea Gray. Maybe she's just not fully healthy. Maybe she's, still recovering from her injury. I don't know.
I mean, she was just in the Olympics, too.
Yeah, and that's exhausting.
Yeah. No, they have the biggest Olympic toll. Mm-hmm. KP, Jo, Asia, Chelsea.
Right.
Megan.
Uh-huh.
Tiffany Hayes. Like, they're a tired team right now.
Yep.
So I'm not going to pick against them early in the playoffs. When they go up against the Liberty, I might have to pick against them, but we'll see. We'll see when we get there.
Yeah.
What's the last 10 games have in store for the Aces?
Right.
I don't know.
Well, so we checked in these 2 games against the Lynx, and then we saw, clips of the game with the Sky today. But it seems like these Aces players are really getting mad at the refs. Last game, you said Kelsey Plum was getting really heated and angry about the refs.
In her postgame.
The postgame today, Asia it was answering questions after the game and said to the refs, you need to be better at your jobs. So they are getting, at least they feel like they're getting mistreated by the refs, which is why they're, losing or getting so close to losing these games. And perhaps today that was part of it because they only won by 2 points. But with the Lynx, they lost these games by 14 points.
Yeah, that wasn't about really the officiating.
You can't get mad about that.
Right. And look, I understand criticizing referees as a Philadelphia 76ers fan. When it was playoff time last year, there was a very wide disparity between the officiating, and it was documented, and you can look for it on Twitter and somewhere else, probably on ESPN. It was documented how poorly certain plays were called in difference between the teams that the Sixers were playing and the teams that they... So I get it. Every player has a right to complain about refs because, especially in basketball, there are a lot of times where it seems like they're not doing their job right. I'm not going to get on the Aces for that. It's fine. I just hope that if they don't continue to do that and they get past it and they've got it out of their system so that they're not complaining about the refs the rest of the year and that they can go into the playoffs strong and feeling confident that they can beat whoever they want to because they are the best team in the league outside of maybe New York. It sucks. It sucks to have the conversation, but Yeah, sometimes the refs are wrong.
But I feel like they have a pretty easy schedule for the rest of the year. They play the Wings twice. They play the Sky again. They play the Fever twice, although that might be a challenge.
Never know.
But they are playing the Liberty one more time, and they're playing the Sun twice. So those will be games to tune into.
Absolutely.
And they are playing the Storm one more time.
Right.
At the very end of the season. So we'll keep our eye on the Aces.
And we'll see how they're doing.
2 other quick things of things that happened around the league this week. Tina Charles became number 2 all-time point scorer.
Yes. Exciting.
She passed Tina
Thompson. In a game where they were playing?
They were playing the Mercury.
Yes.
Which was that was a great way to do it.
A lovely moment.
Because she moved up to second place on a 3-pointer. And then her and Diana Taurasi, who is the current number 1 leading scorer, they hugged each other and, they took pictures together after the game.
So cool.
They're saying congratulations. That was really cool. It was cool that both of them were there.
Yeah.
The number 1 and number 2 scorers of all time.
Congratulations to Tina.
We did some math, and it's possible that Tina passes her.
If she sticks around in the league, she could, if on this pace, she could do it by like 39, 40. Yeah. It's not out of the realm of possibility. She's a bigger player than DT.
If you haven't listened to our coverage of the saga of Tina Charles,
yes,
our history of that,
go back and check that out. That was a couple weeks back, but it's in the episode description. The Tale of Tina Charles.
The tale, yes, you have to. Because that's just crazy. So I am rooting for Tina Charles to win and to be number one in points.
At least get a shot at the playoffs.
Yeah. And then the second thing quickly was Angel Reese became the first WNBA player in history
ever
to record 20 rebounds in consecutive games.
Crazy. Crazy. And, people say what they have to say about the way that she gets rebounds on missed shots of her own, but getting 20 rebounds regardless is a very impressive feat.
Right, yeah, you'd want her to not get the rebounds? Like, just miss the shots? No, she's creating more opportunities for her team. That is very valuable.
Yeah, so congratulations to Angel for getting another record, and, her and Caitlin continue to go back to back to back. Yeah. Who's getting records? Angel just did a deal with Reese's.
Oh, yeah.
Reese's, whatever you want to call it. Pretty cool.
Reese, yeah, Angel Reese. Yes. Reese, the Reese's Pieces are her fault. I'm a Reese's Piece. Reese's Piece.
A piece of Reese?
I'm not, you wouldn't say I'm a Reese's Pieces.
I'm a Reese's Piece. I'm a Reese's Piece.
Yeah.
I'm a singular Reese's
Personally,
Piece.
I didn't love the merch. So
It's still a cool thing.
I didn't buy any, but yes, it's very cool.
That's okay. But anyway, congratulations again to her. Otherwise, there weren't many other big time games this week. There were a couple 2-point wins. Phoenix beat Atlanta 82-80, and the same night, the Sun knocked off Chicago 82-80. So a couple of an important game for the Sun, an important game for the Mercury against a hot Atlanta team. Atlanta right now only half a game behind Chicago for that 8th spot. So I will be rooting for Atlanta, Alicia and Ryan and Tina Charles to knock off Chicago there, I think. But it's going to come down to the wire for those teams, and we're excited to see.
Well, perhaps rooting for Atlanta will not be good for the Mystics.
And with that, let's segue into our Washington Mystics talk. So we had the luxury of watching...
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
The Washington Mystics this week.
Oh, I loved it.
2 games. A game on Tuesday evening and a game on Friday evening. One against the Storm and one against the Sparks. A team that we covered last week.
Again.
They're back. They're back. All of our faves. Washington. What we knew going into the week, they were 6-21, and they ended the week 7-22. A game that was a very important game for them to lose that they ended up winning against LA.
Yeah, I don't get it.
We're going to talk about it. Let's start with game number 1 against Seattle. Early week game, a competitive showing as we first dip into our coverage of Washington. We've got a couple players back from injury. Brittney Sykes, a player that we haven't seen much of following the W this year.
She only played in 1 game before the break.
And Shakira Austin, a player who was on my fantasy team.
Brittney Sykes was on mine.
I held her for way too long, and she didn't ever play. And you also kept Brittney Sykes?
I kept her. Well, guess what? I'm in the finals now. I'm in the championship.
And I'm not.
You should have kept her then.
I did keep Shakira Austin.
I thought you said you dropped her.
No, I just waited for her to play, and she never did.
Oh, well.
but she's back. And she's good. And Brittney Sykes, also good. Slim,
Really
they call
good.
her.
Slim Pickens.
Slim Pickens.
Yeah. No, I loved them. I loved the two of them. They brought so much energy to this team. I think especially Shakira Austin was just so good defense and offense. I loved the two of them. And good for the Mystics that they were both out because they would have won, I think, many more games if had they been there the whole season.
You were very, very right in that, I would say. I remember when the season started, Shakira played a couple games early and then had her injury. But when I was looking at the stats, courtesy of herhoopstats.com, Shakira was like the highest usage player in the W. Like 33%. They were just feeding her. And
more than Enrique.
yes, higher usage than Enrique.
Wow.
It was only a couple games. It was a small sample.
Okay.
But like, there was probably this desire to see what Shakira could be as like the centerpiece of a team that has other complementary pieces. A Julie Von Lowe, who is a great distributor. Ariel Atkins, who's a bucket getter.
Stephanie
Dolson, who's the best three-point shooter in the league.
Literally.
50% three-point shooter? That's crazy.
She was 58% from three in the last 13 games.
Insane.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And not a guard. She's not a guard. She's a big. And
Right.
it's awesome. And she's like a high volume 3-point shooting big.
She's not shooting 1-3 a game. She went 6 for 6.
On the game before we started watching.
Yeah.
The Mystics.
That's crazy.
It's a shame. That was the most consecutive makes in a game without a miss in WNBA history.
Crazy.
Stephanie Dolson. So they have good players.
They do have good players.
They do. And I feel like that's what we felt about them when we talked about them at the break in our power rankings. We had them a little higher because, like, oh, these pieces are pretty good. And, like, I would say certainly better than the Sparks.
100%.
So they find themselves tied with the Sparks going into this week, which is pretty lucky for them considering, like you said, they should be a few wins higher.
Right, then it just sucks that now they're stuck at this bottom, like they're not making the playoffs. So what are they playing for?
They're playing for Paige.
We'll see. Apparently no, because they won the game against the Sparks.
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
Talking about the Storm game.
That game was really good. They really put up a fight in that game. They were only 2 points back with 5 minutes to go. So they kept up.
The best thing that you can see as a fan of a losing team is being competitive in games against better teams.
Yes.
And, it was only a 7-point loss, we said? 6 point, 7-point loss. 83-77. So it was a close game the whole way. The whole way. And Ariel Atkins, who I know has gone off multiple times this year, ends with 25. Shakira has 24.
Ariel Atkins, she was 4 for 4 from 3 in the third quarter. She's good.
She's very good.
Yeah.
She's very good. Just gets buckets. Just, it comes easy. And I don't really know, their defense is sporadic. That's part of it too. But it's really a scenario where they were hurting at important positions, and that's why we're seeing them the way that we're seeing them.
No, I loved Brittney Sykes on her defense in both of these games.
God.
She's so good.
She's like she's a demon on D, and I would say, and I mentioned this while we're watching this, she's just a guard who can get her own shot, is not afraid to take an ISO and shoot along too. Very much cut from the same cloth as Courtney Williams, who's one of my favorite players from the Minnesota Lynx. I feel like there's a kinship there in the way that I watch them play. So I was excited to watch Brittney Sykes. And I was happy for them that they ultimately lose this game.
Yeah, good.
Because, you don't need to steal a win against the Storm. Just let the Storm
No, why are you doing that?
beat you out.
Yeah.
Coach Eric Tebow.
Controversial, apparently.
Nepo baby. His dad just got it, helped the woman win gold in Paris and then
That's pretty
retired.
good.
Exciting. But yeah, I don't know what he's thinking about this whole situation right now.
Well, I mean, if I were him, I'd say great against the Storm. You guys are playing very well, but we don't need to be winning. So perhaps, I keep you all next year and you continue playing well and we add some better pieces and we can make a good run.
Right. And I don't think he doesn't give me the sense that he's afraid for his job.
No.
Like, I don't necessarily expect him to get cut because the team is bad, because they had injury luck ultimately. And when you get, if things stay the way that they are, the Mystics have the second best odds for Paige Bueckers, who is what they're playing for, like I said. And if Atlanta doesn't make the playoffs, they have a chance to get Atlanta's pick.
They have a pick swap with the Dream.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. As I saw it. So that means, based on those odds, that they could have the second and third pick, or just a combined odds that is pretty comparable to what LA has to win that number 1 overall pick. So they are happy with their spot.
If the Dream don't make the playoffs.
Correct. If the Dream make the playoffs, then they're not a lottery team.
Right.
So you don't have a chance at that pick. You
Right.
would just be your own pick.
Yeah.
So having 2 bites at the apple to maybe win Paige is very exciting proposition for the ownership
That's insane.
of Washington. That's the thing that they, these bad teams, this is the biggest player. Some have argued she's bigger than Caitlyn.
Yeah.
Tough to say. I don't know. Get me a Paige Bueckers fan and a Caitlin Clark fan in a room together and have them talk it out. Come on the pod. We'll let you cook. I think Paige, I knew Paige before Caitlyn.
Me too.
So there's that. And, we weren't covering the WNBA when I knew Paige Bueckers. So that's something. I'm excited to watch Paige hoop.
So Paige was at the Mystic Sparks game.
Yes.
Which that was fun. She was there because Aaliyah Edwards, the rookie on the Mystics, went to UConn with her.
Yes, her friend.
How fun would that be if Paige was on the Mystics with Aaliyah Edwards?
We've talked about this in conversations with our listeners, our friends, ranking the options of who could get Paige. And some people say it would be more fun for her to be in LA with Cam. Some people say it would be more fun for her to be close to UConn and play in Washington with Aaliyah. All I'm saying is, if she ends up in Washington, they need to figure out how to get themselves some better cameras.
Oh my god.
Because watching them play, it was nighttime. It was so dark on the screen. And they play in a college campus. They play in a college arena. They don't play. Look it up. Let's look it up.
Okay. No, it's horrible. I think they must. I mean, I think the games that we've watched of the Dream, they also are not great. But so far, the Mystics have the worst cameras, especially the cameras that are, zoomed out and you can see the full court. They are god awful. And the lighting in there, maybe it's just because of the cameras, but yeah, it looks so dark. The cameras are blurry. It's horrible. They really need to invest in better equipment or go play in a different stadium. Go play in the what's it called?
Oh, go play where go play where the Wizards play.
Go play in the Wizards stadium.
Yeah, so they play in the Entertainment and Sports Arena. How is that a name? How's that a name of an arena?
Because it's too bad of an arena that no company wants to sponsor it.
It's where the NBA G League team plays. The Washington G League team.
Okay.
And it's just like, it's more like I don't know, like closer to like a concert venue than it feels like an actual like true basketball stadium.
It's like just funny because they like, you know, sometimes when you're watching games, they like zoom out and they show the whole crowd and the whole stadium and it's, you know, bright. They never did that with the Mystics because like there's barely any seats in the stadium and the cameras and lighting are so horrible.
It's a shame.
But
a shame.
Something that was jump scare.
Yes.
Every time that they did like pan up a little bit to show the scoreboard, I guess their mascot, this panda, for whatever reason, is their mascot, is a huge face is on the scoreboard, taking up the whole scoreboard.
And it's like I don't know, MS Paint level.
It's so crazy.
Pax the panda is his name?
Uh-huh.
Pax. What kind of Pax?
I don't know.
Like political Pax? Like, I don't know. That's weird.
It was crazy. It was like every time. Jump scare. There
Jump
he
scare.
is.
Panda jump scare. Yeah, so that's my quick critique on where they play and, you know, Kristen bringing up their mascot. I don't really feel like I have a preference right now where Paige goes. I think they're both equally interesting. It would be cool for her to be East Coast because then we could go see her play.
I think she's much more needed in LA. I think she'd make a bigger impact on the Sparks.
I think the fit's better in LA.
But I don't care. No, I want her to be in Washington.
The fit's good in Washington too. I don't really know what you do with Julie Van Lowe.
Okay, you don't have to do that.
I do have to do that. Because they don't do it. The announcers don't do it.
Okay, here's my other thing about the Mystics.
Just a general about the stadium?
No, about the announcers.
Okay,
So we learned Julie Van Loo. Okay, she really pronounces her name Von Low along those lines because she's from Belgium. Well, the announcers still just call her Julie Van Loo.
Yeah.
But another player on the team, Jade Melbourne, spelled Melbourne, how we would typically say it in the United States.
Yep.
They go Jade Melbourne, and they just become Australian every time they're saying Jade Melbourne, which, like, good, that's how she pronounces her name.
I don't know why this is a controversial
But
thing
then
for you.
also pronounce Julie Van Loo's name how she pronounces it.
Maybe
It was just funny.
Maybe
It was
Julie
just funny.
wants to do it for the bit. Maybe she's like, call me Van Loo.
I'd have to hear that from her.
It is weird. Or Jade Melbourne. It is strange. But anyway.
It's just funny.
Yeah, I agree with your statement. I think that she would be probably a better fit in LA. I think they don't really have a true point guard. It doesn't feel like they have a true point guard there. Whereas Julie Van Loo is more of a truer point guard, certainly a distributor. I guess she could play the two. Like I said, I'm not really convinced either way. Both these teams want to lose. Both these teams want to have Paige very badly, which is why let's talk about the game itself against the Sparks.
Yeah.
It was a tight game. Washington really only pulls ahead at the end to win 80-74. Both teams in the first half were scoring punch for punch with one another. There were 13 lead changes at one point, I think, in the first half. And then we get into the second half, and it's kind of like, let's go to sleep.
It's kind of like they went on an 11-2 run in the third quarter.
Washington?
Yeah. And then they went on a 10-0 run in the fourth quarter.
And that sort of won them the game there.
It's like, why are you doing that?
And I'll say, and from knowing the process era Sixers, the players don't want to lose the game.
Yeah, they didn't.
The coaching staff might want to lose the game.
De'Erica Hamby wanted to lose that game.
It did kind of feel like that. And I think Stephanie Dolson wanted to lose the game.
Stephanie Dolson, we've been saying she's incredible shooting threes. She was 6 for 6 the other day. She had 1 point in that Sparks game. Perhaps on 1 attempt. Like, she did not play.
I know she shot at least 2 threes, missed them both. But it was more of a distributor role. She passed. She had a bunch of assists.
She was not shooting.
It was strange. It was strange. And I don't know if that could be a game plan thing. That could be coach saying, look, we're going to run the offense through Ariel. We're going to run the offense through Shakira.
Ariel Atkins had 10 less points in this game than she did.
15 points is still a lot of points.
She had 25 points against the Storm.
I know.
She could have had 30 points in this game.
It was Brittney Sykes night. I said Shakira. It was Brittney Sykes night.
It was like every player basically had less points. Every starter had less minutes and less points, except for Brittney Sykes. She basically went off in this game. And then the 2 biggest players off the bench, which were Jade Melvin and Emily Engstler, they played more in this game than they did in the Storm game. So,
it's notable.
Yeah, the coaches wanted to lose.
All right, we can afford to play Jade here in, bigger minutes because we think they probably think Jade is, a worse player than someone that they could have played in her, stead. Mm-hmm. Shatori Walker-Kimbrough, a player that I was excited to watch this week, didn't really have a game.
No.
She only had 16 minutes in this game, went 2 and 1. Mm-hmm. Not a big game for Shatori, who started the first game.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know.
I mean, it was a good game because they were, so close for a lot of it. It's like, even though both of the teams are not, performing well in general, when they play each other, they're more evenly matched. So it was not a bad game. It was a good game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So Washington may have regretted winning this game. Now they have a game up on the Sparks. Let's do an exercise.
Okay.
So they have actually, a game and a half up on the Sparks. Mm-hmm. Because the Sparks have already lost another game. Let's do an exercise. The Sparks have 10 games left. Washington has 11 games left. Let's look at the teams that they have left to play.
Okay, you're looking at Washington.
I'll look at Washington. You look at LA.
Okay.
And let's go down the list of who they're playing and decide who we think is truly gonna...
Decide what they're... What? The Sparks aren't gonna beat anybody.
Well, but... okay. Washington versus Atlanta. They've got... Oh, sorry. Hold on. Washington plays... They play Seattle, Chicago, Connecticut, Dallas, Mercury, Minnesota, Chicago, Atlanta, New York, Indiana. I see maybe one more win for the Mystics. In that Dallas game, potentially. Mm-hmm. I think they could lose out. What about the Sparks?
I mean, they could beat the Sky.
They could maybe beat the Sky. But the Sky and Atlanta are both going to be playing very hard.
Yeah, they have to. The Sky, actually, they have to win. Okay, fine.
Uh-huh. LA plays...
They play the Liberty.
Mm-hmm.
They play... Well, I'm trying to, not just read a list.
Read the list.
Okay, fine.
Don't roast me. Just read the list.
Liberty, the Dream, Fever, Sky, Connecticut, back-to-back.
Mm-hmm.
Seattle, Phoenix, Lynx. They're not winning another game.
It would really have to be that Chicago game.
They have a hard schedule.
It looks like a slightly harder schedule for the Sparks.
So why would they win this game? These Mystics?
Dallas is also tied with Washington.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. We haven't talked about Dallas. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about them in a couple weeks. And it could be a scenario where we're saying, wow, Dallas really tanked hard here with how good of players they have.
It's just a race to the bottom.
It's a race to the bottom.
That's fine.
That's the story of the Washington Mystics.
Mm-hmm. But I enjoy them. I think the team will be much better next year. Whether they get Paige or not, they're going to be much better next year.
Can our GOAT Elena Delle Donne come back? I just
want
to watch her hoop.
I know. I want to watch her in real time hoop. I really hope she does. I hope she comes back. I would love to go to a game and see her.
It's a shame.
Yeah.
So, but I won't even ask the question, like, what is there to root for? Or what's the reason that you should become a Washington Mystics fan? If you're from the Washington area, they have a good history, and they have a chance at Paige. Mm-hmm. It's pretty cut and dry, just like LA. Mm-hmm. Not that LA's from the Washington area. You know what I mean.
We were trying to convince one of our friends to be a Washington Mystics fan.
Jansen, if you're listening, I hope you watch the game, buddy. Maybe you watch a game next year.
Yeah.
When Paige is there.
With Elena.
With Elena Deladon, who, you know, your fellow UD alum. Mm-hmm. Who's your favorite player to watch in these two games?
Well, for sure, I love Aaliyah Edwards.
You do love Aaliyah Edwards. You talk.
I love these rookies. I love the rookies. So yeah, I love Aaliyah Edwards. But I think my favorite player was Brittney Sykes to watch, especially her defense. I feel like we don't see a player that's so trying so hard on she was stealing the ball from people, multiple. She got a bunch of steals. She was causing a lot of turnovers. And then in that game, she had 28 points, her career high against the Sparks.
Yep.
So I think she is great to watch. I enjoyed her.
I mentioned that, you know, Ariel Atkins was a bucket getter. I share your fondness for Brittney Sykes from this week. She reminded me of like a AI light, like AI type player.
Allen Iverson.
Yes. Not artificial intelligence, not Ainsley. This is not Big Brother talk. Mm-mm. Yes, Allen Iverson. Wonderful, wonderful player to watch. Just a dog. I already said Courtney Williams, similar vibes. I'll say Shakira Austin because in that first game, she has a 24. I was not sure what she was going to be like when we finally got to watch her because I was waiting for so long to see her play and to, you know, benefit from having her in fantasy. Mm-hmm. But seeing her get some and ones, multiple and ones, just like having touch at the rim from a big is something that I am very appreciative of. I think she's a very good player. Mm-hmm. And I think I would hope that she can continue to stay healthy down the stretch and that she can be, you know, a difference maker for this team because she's young. She's only 24. Mm-hmm. She's 6'5". She's got good size for center. She could be the good offensive defensive punch that this team needs in the absence of an Elena Deladon. She could be like that next coming of that type of player. Mm-hmm. And I appreciated getting to see her play, and I'm glad that she's good because I believed that she was. Mm-hmm. So it was cool to see that. And even though she missed a couple bunnies, some easy ones, it's okay. It's fine. You're trying to lose. Miss them. Miss those shots. So, Kristen, that pretty much does it for our thoughts on the Washington Mystics. You know, watching two bad teams in a row. Mm-hmm. It's a little tough. We got one win out of it, which I would have probably preferred was a loss. Would have been more interesting if they had the same record as the Sparks. Uh-huh. Or half a game difference. But next week, we've got the Chicago Sky. So that should be interesting.
Yeah.
A team that we know has some stars on it.
And is really playing for this last playoff spot.
But they've also been through a bit of a tough time recently. They've lost a couple games and let Atlanta sort of creep back up on them, as we mentioned earlier in the show. Mm-hmm. It's going to be something to pay attention to if Chicago can figure it out now that they don't have Marina. Mm-hmm. They're going to need their shooting to come from elsewhere. We're going to find out how that looks next week. Mm-hmm. But any other thoughts before we go?
No, I'm just excited for that. I actually can't believe we're so close to the playoffs already.
It's around the corner.
We were like, oh, it's the second half. It's like, no, it's basically playoffs at this point. So I'm excited for that.
It's the last quarter.
Yeah.
It's the last quarter.
10 more games, I guess. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you're right. But I'm getting ready.
You got to ramp up. We hope that you're back following the W now that it's back full time on our screens. There's games every day. Check it out, except for Mondays for some reason. And get excited. If you would like to send us an email, attackthebaseline@gmail.com, or connect with us on our Twitter at ATBpod_. We'll be back next week with Chicago talk. But until then, Kristen, I'm looking at the baseline. What are we going to do?
Attack it.
That's right. Attack the baseline. We will talk to you soon. But until then, have a great week of WNBA action.